The Manhattan skyline glittered behind the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse suite, but Vanessa Reed barely noticed the view as she slipped into her crimson Givenchy gown. Tonight was her coronation, even if unofficial. 6 months of careful maneuvering had brought her here, from executive assistant to the woman on Nathaniel Morgan's arm at the most prestigious social event of the season. "You look ravishing," Nathaniel said, entering the bedroom of his Central Park West apartment. At 45, the tech billionaire maintained the trim physique of a man 15 years younger, his salt-and-pepper hair precisely styled to project authority and sophistication. Vanessa turned, allowing him to appreciate how the dress hugged every curve of her toned body. "Is it appropriate for the Obsidian Foundation gala?" she asked, knowing full well it wasn't. The dress was deliberately provocative, low-cut with a slit that climbed dangerously high up her thigh. "It's perfect," Nathaniel replied, his eyes darkening with desire as he approached. His fingers brushed against her bare shoulder, trailing down her arm. "Everyone will be watching you tonight." "And talking about us," Vanessa added, leaning into his touch. "Are you ready for that?" Nathaniel's hesitation was almost imperceptible. "I've been separated from Sophia for months. People know we're over." "But not officially divorced," she reminded him gently, turning to face the mirror as she fastened diamond earrings, his latest gift. "People will talk. Let them talk." His hands found her waist, pulling her against him. "I'm not hiding you anymore." Across town, in a tastefully appointed brownstone in the Upper East Side, Sophia Morgan selected a midnight blue Chanel gown from her extensive wardrobe. At 38, the heiress to the Blackwood diamond empire possessed a quiet elegance that made heads turn without effort. Tonight, however, she was deliberately planning to make an impact. "The car will arrive in 30 minutes, Mrs. Morgan," her housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, announced from the doorway. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen." Sophia's voice was calm, betraying none of the calculated fury that had fueled her planning over the past 3 months. "And the package?" "Delivered to Mr. Harrison as instructed." Sophia nodded, satisfied. Robert Harrison, editor of New York's most influential society magazine, would ensure her appearance tonight received the coverage it deserved. She opened her jewelry box, bypassing the extravagant pieces Nathaniel had given her during their 12-year marriage. Instead, she selected a simple yet stunning Blackwood diamond pendant, her family's legacy. The symbolism wouldn't be lost on those who understood the subtle language of high society. "You're certain about this?" Mrs. Chen asked, watching with concerned eyes. She had served the Blackwood family for decades and had watched Sophia grow from a reserved young woman into the poised figure before her. "I've never been more certain," Sophia replied, applying a final touch of nude lipstick. "Nathaniel believes I'm still hiding away, nursing my wounded pride. He's about to discover how thoroughly he's misjudged me." Meanwhile, at the Obsidian Foundation Gala held in the majestic Sinclair Hotel ballroom, New York's elite were gathering. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over marble floors as waiters circulated with champagne flutes and delicate hors d'oeuvres. The annual event raised millions for medical research while serving as the ultimate showcase of wealth, influence, and status. Elizabeth Huntington, the 70-year-old matriarch of New York society, observed the arriving guests with the shrewd assessment of a general surveying the battlefield. When Nathaniel Morgan entered with Vanessa Reed on his arm, Elizabeth's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose fractionally. "How gauche," she murmured to her companion, Victoria Westfield, bringing his assistant to the Obsidian Gala while his wife is still legally Mrs. Morgan. "And that dress," Victoria added, her voice dripping with disdain. One strong breeze away from a public indecency charge. Unaware of the critical assessment, Vanessa basked in the attention as Nathaniel guided her through the crowd. Camera flashes captured their entrance exactly as she had hoped. After years of anonymity, of being the efficient shadow behind Nathaniel's success, tonight she was stepping into the light. What she didn't know was that Sophia Morgan's driver was already pulling up to the entrance of the Sinclair Hotel, about to deliver the first act of a meticulously orchestrated drama that would leave New York society speechless. Part 2, To 5 the Diamond Gambit, continued. Part 2, The Gathering Storm. The Sinclair Hotel ballroom hummed with polite conversation, and the subtle undercurrent of gossip as Vanessa Reed attempted to navigate the treacherous waters of New York high society. She maintained a smile as Nathaniel introduced her to business associates and socialites, though she couldn't miss the fleeting looks of judgment that passed between the women. "Nathaniel, darling, how wonderful to see you," purred Victoria Westfield, air kissing his cheeks while her eyes assessed Vanessa with clinical precision. "And this must be your assistant, Vanessa Reed." She introduced herself before Nathaniel could speak, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Westfield." "Indeed," Victoria replied, her grip deliberately limp. "I've known Sophia for ages. Such a pity she couldn't attend tonight. The Obsidian Gala was always her favorite charity event." Nathaniel shifted uncomfortably. "Sophia has her own engagements these days." "Of course," Victoria smiled thinly. "Do try the champagne, dear," she added to Vanessa. "It's imported from a small French vineyard that most people haven't heard of." As Victoria glided away, Vanessa felt the first crack in her confidence. "They all hate me," she whispered to Nathaniel. "They're just loyal to Sophia," he replied, guiding her toward the bar. "It doesn't matter. I own 3 tech companies valued at over $12 billion. They'll adjust their attitudes accordingly." Across the room, Julian West entered the ballroom alone. At 36, the art dealer's reputation for discovering emerging artists was surpassed only by his reputation with women. His tailored Tom Ford tuxedo fit his athletic frame perfectly, and his arrival caused a noticeable stirring among both men and women. "Julian, I didn't know you were invited," Nathaniel called out, waving him over. "Last-minute arrangement," Julian replied smoothly, his British accent adding to his charm. "The foundation is interested in commissioning a series of pieces." His eyes fell on Vanessa, a smile playing at his lips. "And you must be the famous Vanessa Reed. Nathaniel mentions you in every conversation." "Does he?" she replied, intrigued by the warmth in Julian's gaze. So different from the cold reception she'd received from others. "Incessantly," Julian confirmed, taking her hand and brushing his lips across her knuckles, though his descriptions failed to do you justice. "Julian," Nathaniel said sharply, "aren't you still representing that sculptor from Barcelona?" "Among others," Julian replied, still looking at Vanessa. "Perhaps Ms. Reed would appreciate a private showing of our newest collection. We have some extraordinary pieces that aren't available to the general public." Before Nathaniel could object, his phone buzzed. "Excuse me," he muttered, stepping away to take the call. "Is he always so possessive?" Julian asked, offering Vanessa a glass of champagne. "Protective," she corrected, though uncertainty colored her tone. "You seem very comfortable in this crowd." "I've learned to navigate it," he replied, "though I remain an outsider by choice. These people have rigid rules about who belongs and who doesn't." Vanessa sipped her champagne. "And I clearly don't belong." "Not yet," Julian acknowledged with surprising honesty. "But then neither did Sophia when she first married Nathaniel." She learned quickly. "You know Sophia?" "Everyone knows Sophia," Julian replied cryptically. "She's the genuine article in a room full of counterfeits." Meanwhile, in a private room adjacent to the ballroom, Sophia Morgan was applying the final touches to her appearance. Her personal stylist adjusted the fall of her gown, while her longtime friend and attorney, Maya Patel, briefed her on the latest developments. Nathaniel brought her as expected, Maya confirmed, scrolling through her phone. "My contact at the door sent photos. The dress is exactly as tacky as we anticipated." "And the documents?" Sophia asked, her voice steady. "Delivered to the board members this morning," Maya replied. "The financial discrepancies in Horizon Tech's accounts were impossible to ignore. The board has called an emergency meeting for Monday morning." Sophia nodded, satisfied. "And Richard Thompson?" "The SEC investigator is here tonight, as you suggested. He's seated at table 12, conveniently within earshot of Nathaniel's table." "Perfect." Sophia stood, surveying her reflection one final time. The midnight blue Chanel gown was conservative by gala standards, but its elegant simplicity made a statement of its own. The blackwood diamond at her throat caught the light, sending prisms dancing across the walls. "Are you nervous?" Maya asked, squeezing her friend's hand. "Not in the slightest," Sophia replied. "I've spent 12 years being the perfect corporate wife, supporting Nathaniel while he built his empire on my family's connections. Tonight, I'm simply collecting what I'm owed." Back in the ballroom, Nathaniel returned from his call, his face noticeably pale. Is everything all right? Vanessa asked, touching his arm. Fine, he said distractedly, scanning the room. Just a minor issue with one of the board members. Julian raised an eyebrow. Nothing serious, I hope. Nothing I can't handle, Nathaniel replied curtly, taking Vanessa's elbow. If you'll excuse us, Julian, we should greet the Sinclairs before dinner. As they moved away, Vanessa glanced back to find Julian watching them with an inscrutable expression. He seems to know something we don't, she observed. Julian West knows nothing about my business, Nathaniel snapped, his grip on her elbow tightening. He's just an art dealer with delusions of grandeur. Before Vanessa could respond, a strange hush fell over the ballroom. Conversations halted mid-sentence as heads turned toward the entrance. Nathaniel followed the collective gaze, his body tensing beside her. In the doorway stood Sophia Morgan, radiating composure and quiet power. The crowd parted instinctively as she began her measured walk into the room, acknowledging greetings with gracious nods but never breaking stride. Vanessa felt Nathaniel's hand fall away from her arm as he whispered a single word. Impossible. The Obsidian Foundation Gala collectively held its breath as Sophia Morgan made her way through the ballroom. Her midnight blue gown caught the light with each step, the blackwood diamond at her throat announcing her heritage and status more effectively than any verbal declaration could have. Vanessa. Reed felt a chill run through her body despite the warmth of the crowded room. In photos, Sophia had seemed plain, even forgettable, a corporate wife who had faded into the background of Nathaniel's life. The woman approaching them now was anything but forgettable. She possessed a magnetic presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Nathaniel, Sophia greeted her husband, her voice carrying just enough to be heard by those nearest. What a lovely surprise to see you here. She turned to Vanessa with a smile that never reached her eyes. And you must be the assistant I've heard so much about. Vanessa Reed, she managed to reply, fighting the urge to adjust her suddenly vulgar-feeling dress. Charmed, Sophia said, before turning to address Elizabeth Huntington, who had materialized beside her. Elizabeth, darling, thank you for saving me a seat at your table. It's been far too long since we've had a proper chat. Elizabeth, the society matriarch who had barely acknowledged Vanessa earlier, beamed at Sophia. We've missed you terribly, my dear. The foundation board has been at 6s and 7s without your guidance. Board? Vanessa whispered to Nathaniel, whose complexion had grown increasingly ashen. Sophia is the vice chair of the Obsidian Foundation, he muttered. A position she's held for 8 years. Watching Sophia gracefully accept greetings from the city's elite, Vanessa realized her fundamental miscalculation. She had believed herself to be replacing an insignificant wife. Instead, she had attempted to usurp a woman with her own power base, one entirely independent from Nathaniel. Across the room, Julian West observed the scene with undisguised amusement. When his eyes met Sophia's, he raised his champagne glass in a subtle toast that she acknowledged with the slightest incline of her head. What is she doing here? Nathaniel hissed, finally recovering his voice as he pulled Vanessa aside. She promised to stay away from my public events until the divorce was finalized. I made no such promise, Sophia's voice came from behind them. She had approached silently, a skill Vanessa was beginning to find unnerving. I simply chose not to attend until tonight. We had an agreement, did we? Sophia interrupted, her tone pleasant but her eyes sharp. How fascinating. Speaking of agreements, Commissioner Davis was just asking about the Horizon Tech contract with the city. You should join us, he has some concerns about the delivery timeline. Nathaniel's face darkened. This isn't the place to discuss business. On the contrary, Sophia replied. The Obsidian Gala has always been where the most important connections are maintained. Surely your companion understands that. Her gaze flicked to Vanessa, assessing and dismissing her in a single glance. As Nathaniel reluctantly followed Sophia toward a group of distinguished-looking men, Vanessa found herself suddenly alone in the crowd. The warm acceptance she had expected, deserved even as Nathaniel Morgan's chosen partner, had evaporated with Sophia's arrival. First time abandoned at a gala? Julian's voice came from beside her, offering another glass of champagne. It gets easier, I promise. I wasn't abandoned, Vanessa insisted, taking the glass nonetheless. Nathaniel is handling an important business matter. Of course, Julian agreed too readily. Though it's interesting how quickly he reverted to Sophia's orbit, isn't it? She ambushed him. Vanessa countered, watching as Sophia introduced Nathaniel to a stern-looking man in an impeccable suit. Who is that man they're speaking with? Richard Thompson, Securities and Exchange Commission, Julian supplied. Fascinating choice of dinner companion. Vanessa's stomach tightened. What does that mean? Julian shrugged elegantly. Probably nothing. Though if I were CFO of a publicly traded company with creative accounting practices, I might find his presence concerning. Nathaniel's companies are completely legitimate. Vanessa snapped. Of course they are, Julian soothed. I'm sure the emergency board meeting called for Monday morning is purely routine as well. Vanessa stared at him. How do you know about that? Julian's smile was enigmatic. The art world thrives on information, Ms. Reed. Now shall we find your place card? Dinner is about to be served. To Vanessa's dismay, she discovered she had been seated at table 19, on the periphery of the ballroom, while Nathaniel was placed at table 1 with Sophia, the foundation board members, and the SEC investigator. When she attempted to approach, Elizabeth Huntington intercepted her. Seating arrangements are finalized weeks in advance, dear, the older woman explained with transparent insincerity. We couldn't possibly disrupt the protocol now. Trapped at a table with minor socialites and junior executives, Vanessa watched helplessly as Sophia orchestrated what was clearly a carefully planned scenario. Throughout dinner, Nathaniel appeared increasingly agitated, repeatedly checking his phone and whispering urgently to various associates who approached the table. When the dancing began after dinner, Vanessa finally managed to break away from her table, determined to reclaim her place at Nathaniel's side. Instead, she found herself intercepted once again, this time by Sophia herself. Ms. Reed, Sophia said pleasantly, I believe we should have a private conversation. The private terrace of the Sinclair Hotel offered a spectacular view of the Manhattan skyline, but neither woman spared it a glance. Sophia Morgan stood with perfect posture, the night breeze barely disturbing her carefully styled hair, while Vanessa Reed tried to project confidence despite the growing sense that she had stumbled into a trap. I assume you believe I've brought you here for some dramatic confrontation? Sophia began, her voice calm, the scorned wife facing her husband's mistress. I'm not just his mistress, Vanessa replied, lifting her chin. Nathaniel and I have a real relationship. He loves me. Sophia's smile contained a hint of genuine pity. Nathaniel loves what you represent. Youth, adoration, and the illusion that he's still the man he was 20 years ago. It's a pattern, Ms. Reed. One I've observed 3 times during our marriage. This is different, Vanessa insisted, though uncertainty crept into her voice. He's leaving you for me, is he? Sophia reached into her clutch and withdrew a small envelope. These were taken last weekend while you were visiting your mother in Connecticut. The photographs showed Nathaniel with a stunning redhead entering a hotel in Boston. The date stamp was unmistakable, as was the intimate way his hand rested on the woman's lower back. Her name is Melissa Winters, Sophia continued dispassionately, a marketing executive from his San Francisco office. 29, ambitious, convinced she's special. She took the photos back. Sound familiar? Vanessa felt the blood drain from her face. You're lying. I have no reason to lie. Ms. Reed, contrary to what you might believe, this conversation isn't about jealousy or revenge. Sophia gestured toward the ballroom where Nathaniel was now deep in conversation with Richard Thompson from the SEC. It's about clarity. What do you want from me? Vanessa asked, her confidence crumbling. Nothing. This information is a courtesy, not a negotiation. Sophia's expression softened marginally. You're intelligent and capable, Ms. Reed. You deserve to know you're being used as a convenient distraction. Distraction from what? From the fact that Horizon Tech has been falsifying its financial reports for the past 18 months, Sophia stated flatly. The board discovered inconsistencies last quarter. They've been quietly investigating since. Vanessa stared at her. That's impossible. I worked directly with Nathaniel. I would have known. Would you? Sophia interrupted. Or were you kept busy with personal errands, social events, and the flattering attention of a powerful man? The pieces began falling into place with sickening clarity. The late-night meetings Vanessa wasn't invited to. The documents she was asked not to file. The strange tension among the executive team in recent months. The SEC investigation begins formally on Monday, Sophia continued. Nathaniel knows this. He's been attempting to cover his tracks for weeks, which is why he suddenly made your relationship public. He needed a scandal to distract the press from asking financial questions. Why are you telling me this? Vanessa asked, her voice barely audible. Because 12 years ago I was you, Sophia replied simply. Different circumstances, but the same fundamental mistake. Believing Nathaniel Morgan saw me as an equal partner rather than a useful accessory. Before Vanessa could respond, the terrace door opened. Julian West stepped out, his expression serious for the first time that evening. It's done, he said to Sophia. The board members have seen the complete documentation. They're calling for his resignation effective immediately. Thank you, Julian, Sophia replied, her hand briefly touching his in a gesture that spoke of deep familiarity. Understanding dawned on Vanessa. You're working together. Julian and I have known each other since childhood, Sophia explained. The Wests and the Blackwoods have been business partners for generations. Before Nathaniel, Julian added, Sophia and I were engaged. A youthful arrangement, Sophia clarified. We realized we were better as friends. Julian helped me track Nathaniel's financial maneuvers through the art world. Expensive paintings purchased through shell companies, then donated at inflated values for tax benefits. The private showing I offered you, Julian said to Vanessa, would have been evidence, not art. The terrace door burst open again, and Nathaniel stormed out, his face contorted with rage. What have you done? He demanded, advancing on Sophia. Julian stepped between them. I wouldn't make a scene, Nathaniel. There are already enough cameras capturing this evening's events. You orchestrated all of this, Nathaniel accused, glaring at his wife. The SEC, the board meeting, all of it. No, Sophia corrected calmly. You orchestrated this through your own actions. I merely ensured you couldn't bury the evidence. Nathaniel turned to Vanessa, desperation replacing anger. We need to leave now. But Vanessa stood motionless, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. Did you sleep with Melissa Winters last weekend when you told me you were at a technology conference? Nathaniel's expression of confusion followed by guilt was all the confirmation she needed. Ms. Reed, Sophia said quietly. Whatever you decide, remember you're not legally implicated in any of this. You can walk away. For a moment, the four of them stood frozen in a tableau of broken alliances and shifting power. Then Vanessa straightened her shoulders, removed the diamond earrings Nathaniel had given her, and placed them on the terrace table. Goodbye, Nathaniel, she said simply, and walked back into the ballroom alone. 3 months after the Obsidian Foundation Gala, Vanessa Reed sat across from Maya Patel in a sunlit corner of a quiet cafe in Brooklyn, far from the Manhattan power centers she had once navigated. The indictment came down this morning, Maya informed her, sliding a document across the table. Nathaniel is facing 8 counts of securities fraud and 3 counts of tax evasion. Based on similar cases, he's looking at 7 to 10 years. Vanessa scanned the document, her expression unreadable. She had spent the weeks following the gala cooperating with investigators, turning over documents and emails that helped build the case against her former employer and lover. And my immunity agreement? She asked. Fully honored, Maya confirmed. The prosecutor emphasized your cooperation was invaluable. They understand you were kept deliberately uninformed about the financial irregularities. Thanks to Sophia, Vanessa said quietly. Maya smiled. Sophia has a particular talent for recognizing when people are being used. Speaking of which, she asked me to give you this. She handed Vanessa a business card for Blackwood Diamond Enterprises, with Sophia's direct contact information handwritten on the back. What is this for? She's looking for a new director of public relations, Maya explained. Someone with insight into how the corporate world manipulates media narratives. She thinks you'd be perfect. Vanessa stared at the card. After everything that happened, why would she want to work with me? Sophia doesn't confuse business with emotion, Maya replied. She recognizes talent, and you have it. The question is whether you're ready to use it for something worthwhile. Across town, in the penthouse office of Blackwood Diamond Enterprises, Sophia Morgan reviewed the quarterly reports with Julian West, who had recently been appointed to the company's board of directors. The stock price has fully recovered from the Horizon Tech scandal, Julian noted, examining the charts, and the new ethical sourcing initiative has generated significant positive press. Good, Sophia replied, removing her reading glasses. What about the Morgan Foundation properties? All transferred to the charitable trust as ordered by the court, Julian confirmed. The downtown building has already been converted into affordable housing for artists. Sophia nodded, satisfied. The irony wasn't lost on her. Nathaniel's prized real estate portfolio, acquired through questionable means, was now serving the community in ways he would have found appalling. "Have you heard from Vanessa?" Julian asked, his tone carefully casual. "Maya is meeting with her today," Sophia replied. "I hope she accepts my offer." Julian raised an eyebrow. "You genuinely want to work with her? She's smart, resilient, and now intimately familiar with how power can corrupt," Sophia said. "Those qualities are rare and valuable." A knock at the door interrupted them. Elizabeth Huntington entered, elegant as ever in a tailored Chanel suit. "The Foundation Board meeting went splendidly," she announced. "Your proposal for expanding medical research grants was unanimously approved." "Thank you for your support, Elizabeth," Sophia said warmly. "I couldn't have navigated these waters without your guidance." "Nonsense," the older woman replied, settling into a chair. "You've always known exactly what you were doing, my dear. Speaking of which, I saw the Times this morning. The profile piece on you was quite flattering." "It served its purpose," Sophia acknowledged. "The new investment round is already oversubscribed." As Elizabeth and Julian discussed upcoming social events, Sophia walked to the window overlooking the city. The blackwood diamond at her throat caught the sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the walls, a physical reminder of the legacy she had protected. Her phone buzzed with a message from Maya. She said yes. Starting next month, Sophia smiled. Second chances were rare in their world, but she had learned that true power came not from destruction, but from rebuilding something better from the ruins. Later that evening, Sophia hosted a small dinner party in her Upper East Side home. The guest list was carefully curated. Longtime allies like Elizabeth and Victoria, new partners like Maya, and a few carefully selected newcomers to their circle. Julian arrived last, bringing with him a painting, a gift to commemorate the successful conclusion of what the press had dubbed the Morgan scandal. "It's beautiful," Sophia said, admiring the abstract work that somehow captured both turmoil and serenity. "It's titled The Diamond Verdict," Julian told her. "The artist was inspired by your story." "My story isn't finished yet," Sophia replied, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "It's barely beginning." As dinner was served, conversation flowed easily among the assembled guests, discussions of art, philanthropy, business ventures, and carefully modulated gossip. To an outsider, it might have appeared to be just another gathering of the privileged elite, but beneath the surface, pleasantries ran currents of genuine respect and alliance, a network of relationships Sophia had cultivated, with patience and authenticity over many years. This was her true wealth, far more valuable than the financial assets she had reclaimed. When Maya announced Vanessa's acceptance of the position at Blackwood Enterprises, there were raised eyebrows but no objections. Sophia's word was sufficient endorsement. "To new beginnings," Sophia proposed, raising her glass in a toast. As the crystal glasses clinked together, she caught Julian watching her with a mixture of admiration and something deeper, perhaps the rekindling of what they had once shared in their youth. "And to authentic connections," he added quietly, his eyes meeting hers. Sophia's smile acknowledged the possibility. Unlike Nathaniel, who had always treated relationships as transactions, she understood that genuine bonds, whether professional or personal, required truth, respect, and time to develop. The night concluded with plans for the future, the expansion of Blackwood's ethical mining operations in Africa, Julian's upcoming gallery opening featuring emerging artists, and the Foundation's new initiative for women entrepreneurs. As the last guest departed, Sophia stood alone in her home, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of her victory, not just over Nathaniel, but over the doubts that had plagued her throughout their marriage. The fear that she had sacrificed her identity for a relationship that offered security but not partnership. The Blackwood diamond at her throat had once been a symbol of her family's legacy. Now it represented something more personal, her own resilience and capacity for transformation. Like the precious stone itself, she had emerged from pressure not broken, but more brilliant than before. Tomorrow, she would begin the next chapter, mentoring Vanessa, expanding her company's influence, and perhaps exploring the unfinished story with Julian. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of justice served, Sophia Morgan simply savored the peace that comes with reclaiming one's true self. In the end, the greatest revenge wasn't the public humiliation of her unfaithful husband or the dismantling of his fraudulent empire. It was the discovery that she had never needed him to define her worth in the first place.